infinity.
Hello and welcome back to Infinity War. This is the third to last episode before the release of Infinity War, and then after that we will be doing an episode about Avengers Infinity War, and after that we will be doing a wrap-up episode where we talk about the whole Marvel Cinematic Universe to this point, where we think it's going, and we're going to rank them, or at least go over our personal top fives, as we indicated very early on in this podcast process. This is a podcast, as I've said, about the Marvel Cinematic Universe. If you've not been following us this far, there are an episode for every Marvel Cinematic Universe film prior to Spider-Man Homecoming as of the release of this. And it is brought to you by Super Luna Films, featuring the Super Luna Films Marvel Cinematic Universe self-professed fanboys. I am Dan, one of those fanboys, and he...
I am J-Rod, the other one of them fanboys.
Indeed. And we are taking you each week, episode by episode and film by film, through the Marvel Cinematic Universe. This week, we have landed on Spider-Man Homecoming, a very particularly perfect title, because Spider-Man's finally coming home.
Yes. Oh, man.
And this movie is great fun.
Yeah, they did so well in giving him a movie that he deserved. Like, as soon as Marvel was like, all right, we're allowed to make a movie and not just have Sony, poop on it. Let's show them how it's done.
Mm-hmm. A lot of fun. Also, like, they go deep into Spider-Man lore in this movie.
Oh, yeah. It's pretty crazy. Like, so many, references and characters show up.
Yeah, and, you have, both, Shocker? That's his name. Shocker, so,
both iterations of it, too.
Yes, both Shockers are in it. Vulture, obviously, Tinkerer, a somewhat lesser-known comics character, which is pretty great because the guy that plays him, Michael Chernus, is fantastic as far as I'm concerned.
I haven't watched Orange is the New Black, but I've heard he's pretty good in that.
He's wonderful. He's absolutely wonderful. He's a lot of fun.
You were a fan of that show, so.
Yeah, I'm especially a fan of the character that he plays. And
awesome.
Just the fact that, and then we get sort of ultimate Spider-Man lore in Aaron Davis, who is the uncle of Miles Morales, who is Spider-Man in the Ultimate series.
Yes, sir.
So, and it's, Donald Glover, who voiced Miles Morales in the Ultimate Spider-Man TV show. So
yeah, it definitely has a lot of intertwining threads right there. It's pretty great.
Yeah, it's really great, and the fact that he mentions his nephew at a point, like when my nephew lives in this neighborhood, is just so great, because that means we may get Miles Morales, or at least we now know that Aaron Davis has a nephew, and in comics canon, that nephew is Miles Morales. So we at least could have Miles Morales as a character in the MCU in the future, which would be fantastic.
Yeah, they could easily go more into the Spider-Man armies.
Yeah, give us additional Spider-Mans is great. Zigging or zagging, depending on how you want to look at it, with MJ not actually being Mary Jane, I thought was really cool.
Yeah, they have said that doesn't necessarily mean Mary Jane Watson won't appear, but it was just more of another extra little nod towards the deeper MC or Spider-Man U.
Yeah,
within the MCU.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool, and I'm not necessarily a big fan of Zendaya as an actress, but I thought she did a pretty good job. She's way too attractive for a high school nerd girl, but I don't know, maybe that's my own bias creeping out, so
maybe. But also, if there's any of the girls that used to be on your what was that club, the Knowledge Fight Club, I don't actually know the
academic league.
Yeah. If any of the girls that you were on that club with listen to this, they're gonna be very mad at you.
Yeah, whatever. That was like 14 years ago. I don't really if they want to, you know what? Come find me. Come find me.
At me, bro.
Yeah. Yes.
At me, lady, bro.
At me. Don't at me.
Yeah, don't at me, bro. Lady, bro.
I think it's very interesting that for the second for the second Marvel movie in a row, we get a chubby Asian who makes like awkward comedy as the sidekick.
Yeah.
Although I thought that
Well, not
kid,
in a row.
or yeah, not in a row, but no. What was the last movie?
Guardians 2?
Oh, right, Guardians 2. Yeah, I
Unless you
forgot
mean
about that.
Mantis.
No, I don't.
Which,
No.
no.
I do not. I mean,
Otherwise, Drax may have more interest in her.
yeah, fair. But no, you're right. There's a gap there. But this Jacob Batalon, I think
You were thinking about the Wong movie.
the Wong movie. Yeah. I give him a ton of credit. I'm also really interested now because I have discovered that he was in an adaptation of Don Quixote that was released last year, in which he played Sancho, which seems really interesting to me. So
that sounds amazing.
Good on you, Jacob Batalon. I thought you did a wonderful job in Spider-Man, and keep on working.
Yeah, that's all. That sounds pretty cool though.
Yeah, and also I think I was a little nervous at first about the concept of Vulture.
Also, he's Hawaiian. Just throwing that out there.
Well, he's Asian. That's the thing.
Fair enough.
But I was a little worried about Vulture, but I was honestly less worried when I saw who was on the writing staff for this movie. Specifically Jonathan Goldstein and John Francis Daley. I am a big John Francis Daley fan as far as like things he has acted in. I loved him on Freaks and Geeks. I still think that show is one of the best shows, like the best versions of like awkward high school comedy that's ever been done. When I was heavily watching Bones, his portrayal of Sweets was great, and he's also a relatively talented screenwriter, having written Horrible Bosses and The Incredible Burt Wonderstone, which are two. I don't like either of those movies, but they made a lot of money and they're well respected as as comedies. He also wrote and directed the Vacation sequel reboot thing with Ed Helms and Christina Applegate from a couple years ago. Seaboot, yeah. So I was interested once I found out about that, and then once they looped in. Once again, we're in that established Marvel Cinematic Universe, right? We have New York 8 years later.
Yes.
Though that is also weird because it puts this movie in our present future.
A little bit, yeah. Because they kind of messed up the time a little bit.
Well, James Gunn messed up the time for Guardians and admitted it. And this makes that mess up a little worse.
Yeah, they have a little bit of communication issues. Usually it just goes from the Netflix series, the ABC series, and the movies. But now it's actually happening between the movies, and that's bad.
It is. It is because the Avengers took place in 2012. Which means Spider-Man Homecoming takes place in 2020.
Yep.
Despite being released in 2017. And the bigger problem with that is, where is Infinity War going to take place? Also, by that, when does Captain America Civil War take place? Because that also includes Peter Parker as Spider-Man.
Yeah, literally directly from this, because they're on the way home from that. And it's like, oh, I just did that thing literally like a couple days ago.
Yeah.
Or so did he? Because they're immediately in a different apartment.
Yeah, we're utilizing a bit of poor internal continuity here.
It's a little squiffy, but they definitely make it fine because they were just like, well, no, Avengers didn't quite happen then. It happened a little bit earlier. Other stuff. Yeah. No, it's fine. We're fine.
The other thing I find fascinating is it's been 8 years, right? 8 years. And in that time period, so I guess we don't know exactly when it is that Toomes and the Salvage Company get taken over by DODC, but it has to be pretty soon after the Battle of New York. And so you got to figure 8 years later, they're still developing new technology with the Chitauri stuff. That to me seems a little stretchy as well for the purpose of story.
Well, I think it was. I mean, they actually mentioned it's not just the Chitauri stuff; it's the other things they've salvaged from other stuff. They mentioned the Triskelion
Oh, right.
cleanup.
Mm-hmm.
So that was Winter Soldier.
Mm-hmm.
So every big event, these guys try to sneak in before Damage Control does to try to, salvage some bits. So they probably have leftover Chitauri stuff, mixing it in with all the Shield stuff if they went down to DC for that.
Mm-hmm.
Other events that may have happened, I can't think. I don't think they probably didn't make it over to England for Thor 2.
No,
so.
They also probably didn't make it to small Eastern European country that doesn't really exist, Sokovia.
No, probably not. Although they almost got stuff from there because that was where the Ultron head was in the truck.
Yes, so they almost got stuff from there, but they didn't go there. So, what, by the way, an awesome angle. Like having the bad guys really just be like opportunists who, an opportunist who was down on his luck and decided to take a chance and try to make something work.
Yeah, he was just like, no, we're not giving up on what we do, and we're gonna do it crazier.
Yeah, I really.
Like, all right, he's a salvage guy, and then he gets this technology. He's like, I'm gonna be a salvage guy, but better. It's like you could have been like a regular criminal, but no, you're like, it's an interesting way to take it. It's like, I'm an under the radar criminal because I'm not actually stealing anything. I'm just salvaging awesomely.
Yeah, because I mean that's one of the things about salvage, right? You get to keep whatever you don't destroy or scrap or whatever else. Like I've definitely known some people who have made lots of money in the salvage biz.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely on the wrong side of the law because you're stealing private property technically.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, just ask Firefly. But
that's a good way to put it. Just ask Firefly.
Yeah, it's like they're not doing anything like actively harmful to anybody, and for the most part, what they're trying to take isn't actually claimed by anybody anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But nobody wants them to have it anyway.
Yeah. So, yeah, government. Government. So then we have the amazing sequences of awkward-ass Peter Parker trying to be Spider-Man.
Oh, man.
It's so good.
Yeah. Like him reclaiming the bike and being like, is this your bike?
Yes.
And then just leaves a note. If this is your bike, here you go. If not, don't steal it again.
Yeah, a lot of that stuff is really, really good.
And then just him and Ned, like the awkward conversation they're having about, can you shoot Venom? Like, where's the web come from? What happened? How far can you shoot your web? What are you doing?
Yeah. Those are that is a pretty, also the sequence when he comes in and Ned discovers that he's Spider-Man, that was one of my favorite sequences in any movie, let alone a Marvel movie. I thought that was great.
Yeah. You're the Spider-Man. No, I'm not.
Yeah.
But when he drops that Lego Death Star.
Yep.
Thank goodness it's Legos and not actual model making.
Yeah, unless you miss it, unless you like kick a couple of pieces under a grate or something.
Yeah, that would suck. But at the same time, a little anecdote here. I've actually bought a couple sets that were missing pieces.
Mm-hmm.
Like one was missing all the minifigures.
Oh, weird.
If you go on the website and be like, my set was missing pieces, you just type in the set number, pick the pieces, like the piece numbers, and they'll mail them to you for free.
Man, Lego's great.
They are. So
initial
I've had
cost
to twice utilize that feature, and I was like, oh man, this is great.
Initial cost of purchase, slightly high. Value for purchase, definitely there.
Oh yeah.
definitely there. That's great. I'm really glad to hear that they do that. That's so cool.
Mm-hmm.
So then we get then we meet Aaron Davis and the attempt to buy or sell weapons depending on who you're looking at it or how you're looking at it.
I just want a gun. I don't want to blow anybody up.
Yeah.
That's all I want.
That and when Spider-Man leaves him webbed to the trunk of his car.
You deserve that.
Yeah.
Have a good day, Mr. Criminal.
Yep. Have a good day, Mr. Criminal.
Like, that line was written perfectly for a character who's supposed to be 15 years old.
Exactly.
It was great.
This Spider-Man, and he quips too. Like, this is a wise-ass Spider-Man, but this is a wise-ass Spider-Man that feels like a kid. The only other time I can think about like a wise-ass Spider-Man who really felt like a kid was the cartoon when we were kids. Like, he felt like a teenager to me. Maybe maybe when I was young he felt like a teenager, but now if I thought about it, he probably wouldn't feel like a teenager. Now that I know what a teenager is.
Yeah. And like, he's a now teenager somehow too, which is good and bad, because now teenagers are terrible.
Everyone's terrible now. You just think it's teenagers.
It's not me who's wrong. It's the kids who are out of
touch. It's the children. So, so we get that, and then he falls into a lake, and Tony rescues him and yells at him, which is one of the, like, Tony Stark telling other people not to, like... Tony Stark telling other people not to be irresponsible just feels wrong.
And he admits it. He's like, God, I sound like my father.
Yeah. Yeah. And it just, even with that admission, it still feels wrong. It's just like, I don't like him. I don't like Dad Stark.
Yeah, it's a little out of there, but it's definitely something. It fits overall, but having watched all these movies one every week, basically, you're just like, I don't know. I don't think this is how it's supposed to go.
This isn't Dad Stark. This is not how he behave. And then we get second shocker already.
Oh yeah, first one. I thought that was the gravity gun.
Yeah. I'm still not certain that he actually thought it was the gravity gun.
The look on his face was a bit surprised, and it may have just been Michael Keaton not selling it as well as he could have.
Yeah. Which, by the way, we haven't mentioned this. Michael Keaton was great in this movie.
Michael Keaton, yeah, he did so well in this.
I don't necessarily want to say it, but career renaissance between Birdman and this?
Oh, that was already the case. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, once Birdman hit,
because like since or pre-Birdman, played the Ken doll in Toy Story 3.
Yeah, you got the Birdman. Then he did the Founder.
Yeah, it was Ray Kroc.
And that was the other, like, so those two were kind of his renaissance, if you will.
Yeah, so career renaissance.
But then this, while at first you're like, Michael Keaton, cool, he used to be somebody. It's like, no, he still is somebody.
Jared, that's just the plot of Birdman. Michael Keaton, he used to be somebody. God damn, that movie's good.
Yeah, Birdman was very good, but yeah, once he got some recognition and some nominations for Birdman, it's like, oh, he's back.
Because it turns out,
great.
Yeah, it turns out he was never actually bad at acting, and he's like he was never. I mean, I'm not gonna say like Mr. Mom or Johnny Dangerously or whatever are like Academy Award winning performances, nor was his Batman, but he was a good actor for the time. But then you just had like, after Jack Frost, the English dub of Porco Rosso and Cars are probably the only two things I can think of for nearly a decade that were actually over a decade, because Jack Frost was 98 and God, he was in that god-awful RoboCop remake and Need for Speed, and he played Noah in a Noah's Ark animated film. Like,
yeah, he definitely didn't have any like roles that put him in the forefront.
Yeah, and then
Until Birdman.
bam, Birdman, which like all the awards. And then I thought he did I didn't see the Founder, but from the promo footage, he looked like a pretty good Ray Kroc. And then he did a great job as the Spider-Man villain. And that's like,
yes,
that's a huge thing for me. Is like like Marvel. We've talked about it in this podcast. Their villains have suffered greatly in the MCU. And the other thing about Vulture is not a villain dedicated to destroying the world.
Yeah, he just
doesn't have the Marvel problem.
Yeah, he just wants to live his life the way he wants to live it.
And he wants to
And
provide
comic
for his
version
child.
Just wanted to regain his youth.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a good adaptation of a good villain character. And it's really well played by somebody. Honestly, when I heard Michael Keaton, I was just like, oh, it's a fucking Batman.
I actually had high hopes because I was like, he's played multiple flying animal characters before with Batman and the Birdman. So I think he's going to do all right in the suit because he has the ability to, portray somebody who looks like that kind of character, where it's like a ridiculous sort of get up, but he still brings a bit of not realism because it's still pretty fucking out there.
And then the suit didn't end up being that much of a suit either. Like it was a bomber jacket and wings.
Yeah, the mask was so cool though too.
That's true. The mask.
Yeah, the mask actually. I wouldn't say reminds me of because they both kind of happened at the same time, but the masks for the Death Troopers from Rogue One. Like with the green eyes, it's like, oh, they look so cool.
Yeah. Yeah, you're not wrong about that. That is a very similar look to it. So that's pretty great. And then what I also love is that in the middle of all this is still like a high school romance movie.
Oh yeah, it still has all of that. Like when he asks character?
Liz?
Michelle.
Oh, MJ.
Yeah.
Like, which girl? Which girl?
No, yeah, Liz. Sorry, Liz. Yeah, she asks Liz to the dance.
Mm-hmm.
You're just like, oh, okay.
Uh-huh.
And then they go into the montage of him having to learn how to put on a tie and being extremely opposed to any sort of cologne.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, wow, yeah, they just threw all that in there. It doesn't feel like it should be there, but then at the same time, it works.
But it works because the dude is, the dude's...
It's like, oh yeah, he's 15. A 15-year-old kid.
Yeah. Like, he's not... Exactly, he's a 15-year-old kid. And then you have the trip to DC, or, well, the trip to Maryland, and, DC by way of Maryland, by way of getting stuck in a DODC warehouse.
Yeah.
Which is some of the... Like, that sequence is so good. It's so good. Him and Karen.
Yes. There's very good stuff there.
Karen.
Hey, Suit Lady. I feel kind of weird calling you Suit
Suit
Lady.
Lady.
Can I call you something else? Liz. Wait, that's weird.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good. And then the Washington Monument stuff, like, so I have some problems. I was talking to Max about this earlier today. I have some problems with some of the action sequences in this movie, namely the ferry action sequence, which we skipped completely over already, and the
well, no, technically that happens after.
Or no, I guess it does happen after that,
DC.
Doesn't it? Yeah. I'm getting my things that disappoint me taken in the wrong order. And then I have issues with the final fight as well, just because it's a little too much. But the DC stuff, especially like when he's climbing up the Washington Monument and there's the helicopters and everything else, I thought that looked like peak Spider-Man.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
Just peak Spider-Man. Then, Peter's a disappointment to everybody because he's Spider-Man. Well, because he missed the academic decathlon. And then Mac Gargan. So we're meeting even more Spider-Man Rogues Gallery villains. Which is so good.
The old Scorpion.
Yeah, Scorpion and also Venom.
At a point, yeah.
Yeah, later Venom. So, like, that's wonderful. And then you have the ferry sequence, which is not very well shot. As Max pointed out when I was talking to him about it, it's because it's shot from, like, helicopters of the ferry. And every time they do, like, a shot of the ferry, they're so far up that unless you're paying like insanely close attention, it's very hard to see what's actually going on.
Yeah, they do. The cuts in that do require a lot of like focusing in on.
Yeah, it's too wide.
If you look away for a second, you might be like, where are they shooting?
It
And what's
may
happening
it
there?
may have worked on the big screen, and I did actually see this movie on the big screen, so it did work on the big screen, but it doesn't work very well on the small screen because you can't tell as much detail of the small stuff on the small screen.
It's very true.
Yeah. So, and then Homecoming. And
then actual Homecoming.
My favorite scene in the entire movie when when Toombs drives them to the dance. And
Oof,
he and Peter are sitting there in the car and he's got the fucking gun. That Michael Keaton. The way he delivered that fucking scene. And just like very obvious, I am not fucking around. You either stop with this Spider-Man nonsense and be good to my daughter, or I will literally just shoot you.
I will kill you and everyone you love.
Do you know how...
Not go dance with my daughter.
Yeah. Do you know how frequently in the Marvel Cinematic Universe characters' lives are actually on the line and actually threatened?
Yeah, it does not happen a lot.
And it's a 15-year-old fucking kid!
Yeah.
Like, you don't see any of the other characters, except maybe Tony in the first Iron Man, this close to actual death and an actual life-threatening situation. Because every other life-threatening situation that we've seen so far in the MCU has been fantastical. It's been aliens or gods or god aliens or, you know, other superpowered beings or whatever else. This is just a dude who could very easily die himself holding a gun pointed at a child.
Yeah. I think the only other scene I can...
Cool.
Yeah, the only other scene I can think of where a character was put in that much danger in a real-ish setting was Nick Fury in The Winter Soldier during the car chase. Like, when they're trying to break into his SUV, you're just like, he could actually die here.
Yeah, Nick Fury, just a man.
Yeah, just a dude. I mean, he's in an armored car, so he's got a bit of a leg up on the situation Spider-Man was in on.
But still just a dude. And, like, that to me, that sequence to me, first off, again, masterfully played by both parties. And Tom Holland, I would point out, was like 19 when they shot this. So, and is also British. So he delivered everything in this movie through an accent.
Yeah. You always forget about that.
Yeah. And so, like, he's legitimately a kid, only playing a couple years down off his actual age, and is acting across from, like, they sell that scene. That scene is so good. That was the scene that sold me on this movie in the theater. I was just like, man, I don't know. This is good, and it definitely feels like Spider-Man, but, oh, wait, this is awesome.
Yeah.
Especially because Spider-Man immediately fucks it up. And he immediately chases him down.
He's like, I'm going for it. Oh, I shouldn't have gone for it.
Yeah. And just, like, because he figures it out, man. He fucking Spider-Man's it, right? Like, he's like, no, I'm pretty smart. I figured out what's going on here. So I'm gonna set this shit up. And then, by the way, girl that I'm, in crush with, I'm gonna save your dad's life, even though he is, like, 3 times now straight up tried to kill me.
But I won't tell you about it.
Well, of course not, because it's a superhero thing. So I love the way they shot Vulture on the beach, webbed up to the cargo.
Yeah, that was good.
That was pretty good. And then I feel like the biggest pacing issue in the entire movie happens in that the last 5 minutes of the movie feels like it could have been a half an hour. Because it's like, he's arrested, she's leaving. Do you want to join the Avengers? No, we got this whole, we've got a bunch of people on the side of the store. Well, no, I was lying. Well, no, actually, they're really there, which I thought was a great way to play it.
That was really good. To guess this was a test. Absolutely. Good job.
Yeah, you passed. Congratulations. And then Aunt May.
Yeah. I'm always a fan of when they're just like, yeah, Aunt May knows. It's fine.
Yeah.
Everything's fine.
Yeah. I also give them a ton of credit, even though they got heat for it, for having Aunt May be young enough to be a 15-year-old's aunt.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense because an aunt doesn't have to be a 90-year-old woman.
No, unless it's your
Original
great
Spider-Man movie.
aunt. Yeah, unless it's your great aunt. Even the remakes with Sally Field. Old enough to be old enough.
Yeah.
Not that Sally Field didn't do a great job, because she did, but not for me. This works, in my opinion, much, much better.
I'd agree.
And then the credits sequence with Matt Gargan and Adrian Toomes and ooh. But then,
Yeah.
wait, not ooh, because he just said he doesn't know who Spider-Man is.
That's because he's like, kid saved my life. I'm not just going to have him be killed.
Yeah, which I give them a ton of credit for writing that way and just for sort of being that way. Yeah, I don't know. So,
Then, of course, the greatest after credits scene of Captain America just saying, sometimes you have to learn to have patience, even if
yes.
sometimes it's not worth it.
Yes.
And then that's it.
Dude,
that's such a good reveal.
the public service announcements, by the way, the Captain America public service announcements are incredible.
I'm sure he had a ton of fun making those.
Yes. Yes, I completely believe this. That had to be so much fun for him. So what do you got for us, what do you call them? Little tidbits wise.
Yeah, box facts.
Box facts, yeah, there you go.
That's not for us. That's something else. Spider-Man Homecoming came out July 7th, 2017. Budget of $175 million. Box office of $880 million.
That's a lot of money.
Like it took down. Like it did better than Guardians 2. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah.
No Oscar nominations, but they weren't really going for that year.
Mm-hmm.
Stan Lee, his name was Gary, and he was one of the people that yelled at Spider-Man for causing the ruckus when Spider-Man tried to stop the carjacker, who was actually just trying to get into his own car.
That was so good.
Easter eggs, obviously the Aaron Davis one of Miles Morales, and also he does become the Prowler. And something that kind of hints at that as well is when he's buying the stuff from the Shockers, they mentioned like climbing gear of some sort, and he's like, "Oh, climbing gear," because that's something that the Prowler uses because he has like the Shuko, and he's able to scale walls with that. The Iron Spider armor at the end, which was an awesome look, and we will see more of that in a couple of movies from now. And Principal Merida, who is in fact played by the same character, or the same actor who played Jim Merida in Captain America: First Avenger, is in fact a descendant of that character.
Oh, that's great.
And in the principal's office is a picture of Jim.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, I was really happy when they were like, yeah.
He got to play his own grandpa.
Essentially, yeah. I don't know if it's like a director or like an uncle, but yeah, they're just like, yeah, we'll cast you, name you, the same thing, and yeah, you're related. It's fine.
Yeah, go ahead. Be your own grandpa.
Yep. And of course, not actually something that had any real effect on it, but Martin Starr. This is not his first appearance in the MCU either.
No, he was in Hulk.
He was in Hulk playing Choi. Kenneth?
I think it is something like that.
I'll scroll back into the Wayback Machine of IMDb.
The IMDb.
Yeah, also this is Computer Nerd. In the novelization of The Incredible Hulk, it's that he was Kenneth Choi.
I
think he's Kenneth, who is Oh, no, Ken Choi's the guy who plays Marita.
Yes.
Cho. Amadeus Cho.
Amadeus Cho. We got there.
We got there. Who is the son in in the comic version, son of the scientist from Age of Ultron who makes the hyperbolic chamber that they make the Vision in.
Oh yes.
So even though it's a little weird because they're not actually related, but they for some reason named him that.
Yeah, because this is a white dude and not a Korean dude.
Yeah, that was a little weird. But yeah, so Martin Starr causing more confusion for MCU fans who are just like, why are he here twice?
Why am here not once but twice?
But again, not surprising he is here because of the whole Freaks and Geeks connection that you mentioned.
Yes.
Which is a delight.
It is. A lot of fun. I had a ton of fun in this movie, and we're getting pretty close to the end here.
Yeah.
Well, the end. We're getting pretty close to now here.
Yeah, we're getting from recording in 8 days, I will have seen Infinity War.
Mm-hmm.
That still sounds weird to me.
Yeah. Well, because we've been talking about it, it's coming for how long now, and now it's finally here. So
yeah, it's pretty crazy.
It is, but I like it. I like it a lot. And if you liked this podcast, you should check us out, superliminalfilms.com. Currently, as of recording, undergoing some construction, but it will be back in bigger, bolder, and brighter form here soon.
Pardon our progress.
Yes, pardon our progress. Bless our mess, child. Bless our mess. You should also check out Facebook, YouTube, Duck Press, Instagram, Twitter, Twitch, Fruit Array, Bumble, Peach, anywhere you can find those social things on the internet. We are social on the internet. Also, if you like this podcast and you like other podcasts, you should check out Did You See? It's a podcast that I do every Monday with Max, also of Superliminal Films. And it's about stuff that each of us thinks is cool, and we want to know if the other has seen. And then we also have our classic podcast, Poor Man's Process, which is also available on all of the fine places that fine podcasts are sold. Bye, everybody.
Bye.